Hello everyone, this is Jason for Primetime Aquatics. Thank you so much for being here. In today's video, yes, we are going to be talking about 10 things I wish I knew before I started keeping fish. Really, it is 10 things every new fish keeper should know because I've been keeping fish since I was 6 years old. So that means I've been keeping fish for 45 years. For those of you who are new to the channel, I also have a master's degree in biotechnology and chemical science and another master's cert in aquaculture and fish health. I teach biology and microbiology at the college level. I'm a professor, and I bring all of that information to you so that you can be a better fish keeper. So thank you so much for being here. Let's get right into it. So 10 things that new fish keepers need to know. And by the way, for those of you who have been long-time Primetime Aquatics listeners, I really need your help here. Please leave your advice in the comments section below so that new fish keepers can learn from that as well. All right, the first thing that all new fish keepers need to know, and this can be really surprising, is that it does take time. This is a hobby that is going to require some time. I know a lot of people get into this hobby thinking that, you know what, let's keep fish. We don't have to worry about taking a dog out and doing all of the vet visits and all of the dog walks. We don't have to worry about caring for a cat or hamsters or reptiles. And so the fish will just be easy. We can just take this thing, set it in a corner, look at it. It's like a piece of furniture. It's going to be awesome. I'm here to tell you that please do not treat your aquarium like it's just going to be an accessory piece of furniture in your living room. Keeping fish, having an aquarium, having a healthy ecosystem, it does take time. You're going to be feeding your fish once or twice a day. Now, that doesn't take a lot of time, but the aquarium itself and its filtration, it does need to be maintained. And so you might be looking at 20 to 30 minutes for one aquarium every single week. It's not a lot of time, but please, this hobby is not a set it and forget it sort of thing. Second thing that a lot of new fish keepers don't fully appreciate is it takes money. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but you're going to need an aquarium. You're going to need a filter and a heater. In fact, we did an entire video on the things you're going to need for your aquarium. I will put that in the upper right-hand corner as well as in the description below. We've got a great beginner guide series for everybody who's new to fish keeping, but it does take money. Now, one of the easiest things you can go do is go to a local fish store or a big box store like a Petco or a PetSmart and go and get an aquarium kit. It's going to have most of what you need in that kit. However, whatever that cost, expect to spend just as much money on things like gravel or sand, or your decorations and your fish. And so usually it's going to cost about twice what the actual aquarium cost to get up and running in the hobby. Again, if you've got a smaller aquarium, that doesn't take a lot of money, maybe $100 or $200. If you find stuff on Facebook, it can be even cheaper. However, it does take money to get started. This next one is so important, and that is, if you are planning to get your kids into the hobby, it can be awesome. It can teach them how to care for living things, teach them responsibility. I'm sure they're going to be really excited about it. They're going to be excited about this life that they have in their aquarium. However, and I'm speaking to you parents out there, we know that sometimes kids get really into an idea or really into a subject only to see it completely fade away in a month or two. That can happen. In fact, it's a perfectly healthy thing for kids to do. And they're exploring different options. They're exploring potential interests. There's absolutely nothing abnormal about that. But what you have to consider is, if your child loses interest, are you willing to take care of those living beings that you've brought into your home? And if the answer is no, fish keeping is not for you. Do something different, because we know how children are. You can't force them into an interest. You can't necessarily force them to take care of something for the next 5, 10 years. They just might not want to do it. And so if you are somebody who just, you don't want to do it, please, it's probably not the hobby for you. And again, back to our it takes time thing. If you are somebody who's really busy, you're always away, you're always traveling, you are constantly away, you're working 16-hour days, well, you really have to determine whether or not fish keeping is the right thing for you. These next few are going to sound a little scary, a little intimidating at first, but I promise you it's actually fun. You're going to become a biologist, and it is so cool. Biology is the study of life, and I've been teaching that subject as a professor for 17 years. What's so fun about keeping fish is you get to study those fish. You get to learn their behaviors. You get to learn what kind of food they like. You're going to start to recognize when they're not feeling well. If that happens, where if they have a parasite or something is a little bit off, that doesn't happen often, but it can happen. And you're going to learn how to deal with those things. The next thing, this can be even a little scarier, but I promise, again, it can be fun. You're going to become a chemist. Yes, that's right. You're going to become a chemist. Why? Because there's certain basic information you need to know in order to keep your fish happy and healthy. So for instance, you're going to learn about water parameters. Don't worry, we've got a ton of videos out there that can teach you about these things. And so if you look in the description of this video, we've talked about things like the nitrogen cycle, water hardness, pH. And those are just basic things that you're going to learn when it comes to keeping fish. And they're not super complicated. And once you learn them, if you learn them early in your fish keeping experience, it's going to make fish keeping so much more successful for you and a whole lot more enjoyable. But you are going to learn about water chemistry to the extent that you need to know it to keep your fish happy. The next thing you're going to become is an ecologist. That's right. You are going to learn how living things interact with one another and their surroundings. And this is awesome. Please keep in mind what you're doing. Unlike almost every other pet, with a fish tank like the ones you see behind me, we're setting up ecosystems, and it is so cool. You're going to learn how fish interact with one another, different types of fish. You're going to learn how fish interact with their surroundings, like plants, whether they're fake or real, rocks and wood and caves, and all the things that you add to the aquarium. All of those things work together to make a healthy ecosystem. You're going to learn about beneficial bacteria, which is so awesome. The microbiologist, Amy, who's been teaching microbiology for almost 17 years, I love that aspect. And that these things you can't even see are going to absolutely have such a massive impact on your aquarium, and it is really fun to learn about. Now, some of these things are a little bit unexpected. If you've been watching this video, I've got 5 aquariums behind me. We have actually had as many as 80 fish tanks in our home. Right now, we've got these 5, and on the other side of our fish room, we have like another 40. Fish keeping can become addictive. Now, you don't have to have 40 aquariums. You don't even have to have more than one. But I can't tell you how many times I've heard when I go to an aquarium show or we go to a fish club, how often people say, you know what, I started with 1 aquarium and now I'm up to 5. It can become very addictive because, like I said, it's rewarding when you have everything really working well. You just want to have more. So don't be surprised if you get an aquarium and pretty soon you want a second one. Number 8 on our list, you're probably going to spend a lot more time at a fish store than I think you realize because, again, it's just fun to do. When you have an aquarium, picking out the fish is a whole lot of fun. It's one of the most rewarding things you can do. I would say for new fish keepers, getting new fish, feeding fish, watching them, all very rewarding. And so don't be surprised if you find yourself looking for new fish stores, trying to figure out what the best ones are in your area, driving an hour away just because you heard there's a fish store that has really cool fish, going there and just wandering around and spending an hour there just looking at the fish. It can be so much fun. So just be prepared that you might start looking for fish stores that are a little bit out of the way. And if you really start enjoying fish, this next one, number 9, it can take some space. Now, we have an entire basement filled with nothing but fish tanks. I have walked into people's homes and their entire homes are filled with aquariums. But no matter what, whether you've got a little tiny 5-gallon aquarium or you've got a 125-gallon aquarium like the 2 larger ones you see behind me, just know that you're going to need a little bit of space for your aquarium, or if you end up adding more than one, it's best to plan out where these aquariums are going to go ahead of time, because if they start just winding up all over your home, trust me, it's just going to create all kinds of situations for you where you got to walk around from one room to another looking at all your aquariums. And so for us, we put the vast majority of them in one place, and that way we can enjoy them all right where we're at. And number 10, this is probably the most rewarding hobby I have ever been a part of. And I have had lots and lots of hobbies over the course of my lifetime. I have lots of hobbies now, but when it comes to fish keeping, this is probably number 1. And the reason why, and we've talked about this a number of times already, you're building an ecosystem. And it's one of the few times when you're keeping pets where you're going to be doing that. Their whole world is what you've created for them. You've given them the substrate. You've given them the decorations, the plants, the rocks, the wood, everything they experience. You're providing for them the water parameters, hopefully, that they need, the lighting, the filtration, the temperatures, everything they know, you've created for them. And when it's really going right, it can be the most rewarding thing that you do when it comes to a lot of your hobbies. I absolutely love these 5 aquariums that I have behind me, looking at them, watching the fish thriving in their environment. And I haven't even talked about when fish start to breed. There is just something about it. If you ever have fish that have little babies in your aquarium, in some ways you were partially responsible for that because you gave them the healthy ecosystem that they needed in order to reproduce and have those baby fish survive and thrive. I would not be surprised at all, and it's one of the reasons why fish keeping is so addictive, when you set up that healthy, thriving ecosystem, if you just want more. This last one, I know I already did 10, but this is a bonus tip for you. And this bonus is, once you're a fish keeper, you're pretty much a fish keeper for life. I've known so many people like myself. I started keeping fish when I was 6 years old. It's been 45 years. So you can do the math and figure out how old I am. But I've always kept fish. But I know a lot of people who started earlier in life and they might have to take breaks every once in a while, but they keep coming back to the hobby because it was so enjoyable for them when they would have aquariums. And yeah, so sometimes your life is going to change a little bit. You might move, you might get a new job, you might have some kids. Who knows? There's just some things that happen where life gets really busy and you have to put the fish tanks aside for a bit. But then I would highly recommend, don't get rid of those aquariums, because it never fails. You come back to it because it is that rewarding. Now, again, for you new fish keepers out there, I'm going to put some really important videos. One in the upper right-hand corner. This is a video. Check it out. You can learn all about fish. There's a nice beginners series for you there. If you want to learn a little bit about water parameters, the nitrogen cycle in the lower right-hand corner is one of the most important videos you will ever see. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one.